Hola, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Heal and Manifest podcast. I am your host, Cynthia Flores, and I have a special guest for today. Her name is Norma Garcia, and I'm going to introduce her in a little bit, but we are going to be talking about knowing when to walk away from a relationship. I know this is a hard topic. This is something that comes up a lot in my therapy work, with my coaching, with my clients, and I'm sure for Norma as well. So we're going to be delving into this topic, really discussing some of the challenges, some of the barriers, maybe identifying some of the relationship challenges that come up, and how to start making choices and decisions that really align with our self-love, with our integrity, with what we want, what we desire, and what we want to manifest in our lives, the types of relationships that we want for ourselves. So Norma, thank you so much for being here. Let me introduce Norma. So Norma Garcia, she is a proud first-gen Mexican-American. She's a licensed clinical social worker and a breakup coach in the city of Los Angeles. She is on a mission to destigmatize mental health, break generational trauma, and empower healing within her Latinx community. Currently, in her therapy and her coaching business, she is helping women to heal from breakups, cultivate self-love, reclaim their worth, and attract healthy, secure relationships. Norma, gracias por estar aquí.
Yes, it's such a pleasure to be here, especially being able to connect with other amazing guests who also share the same passions, right, in terms of supporting relationship.
Yes, we're definitely here supporting the same community, working with women of color, working with Latinas, and especially with this particular topic it's very, very hard, and it's something that I have personally experienced, and I'm sure probably you, Norma, which we're going to talk a little bit into that with that. But I'm sure a lot of us have at some point in our lives experienced this. Knowing when to leave, knowing when to stay, the uncertainty, the fears, the worry, the anxiety of making a very important decision in our lives. So I guess, Norma, to start, before we get into the topic, I know this is something that I've wanted to ask my guest whenever we start a podcast episode, is this concept around healing and manifesting. My podcast is really about that. It's about empowerment, for self-discovery, for healing, for growth, for manifesting. And the way that I see manifesting is, a lot of people think, well, it's external things, right? A lot of people think, well, manifesting wealth, manifesting money, manifesting abundance, external things. And yes, that is part of it, but it's also internal shifts and transitions and transformations that we do, because that starts from within, right? So then I guess my question for you is, if there's something that you would like to share, what you maybe healed throughout your journey and you've manifested, either it's something that you've done in the past or you're currently doing, or you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I really love what you have going on here in terms of combining both, in terms of healing and manifesting, because I do feel that they're both really important. The one thing that I think I have gained in my personal growth, and also in the way that I have supported my clients, is always starting with the relationship with ourselves.
Mhm.
I think that is standard of where to start, because once you start building that relationship, once you start loving yourself, taking care of yourself, and doing things for yourself, you create that space to then be able to manifest, right? Because you have more clarity in terms of what you want, in terms of your goals, personal, professional, your relationships. With that clarity, you also have the intention, right? To be able to then start manifesting and intentionally taking conscious action to go and get those things that you want, right? With the manifestation really creates that opportunity, right? That once you're healed within, right, you're able to then start attracting and manifesting those things. And I love this concept, because I think it is something that it truly works. It truly works, right? Putting it out there, whether it's through words, through action. And I've seen this for myself in terms of how much I have healed and manifested, even just thinking about, becoming a full-time entrepreneur, opening my private practice, right? That felt well for reach.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I did my own healing in terms of my relationships, in terms of healing generational trauma, as a first and Latina, I'm sure as you can relate to, right? How that comes with it.
Yeah.
To get to go through that and heal from that has really allowed me to also build like the confidence, right? And the support system to be able to manifest. And then as these things come to life, be able to really be present in them and enjoy them.
Yes, I love that. Thanks for sharing that. I totally agree with the being present and enjoying them and reclaiming and reconnecting with joy. Because oftentimes we think that manifesting is so complicated. You hear so much stuff on social media that it's like, well, do the XYZ and then do this in this particular way. And the reality is like, nobody should tell you how you need to do things. You need to figure out on your own. Of course, getting guidance, getting support, getting community support, that is part of the process and the journey. But at the end of the day, I think a pivotal point for me is realizing I get to do things my own way. And I'm reclaiming that because I would, watch a bunch of YouTube videos. I would read a bunch of books. I would listen to a lot of, follow a lot of people that would tell me to do XYZ and all these things. And the reality is like, yes, I think guidance is important, but also releasing and giving myself to release all of those distractions. Because at the end of the day, all of the answers are within me, within myself. So yes, I can inform myself, educate myself, learn, but come back home to me and figure out what's going to work for me, what isn't, and then go from there.
Yeah.
And that's that. What the moment for me that did it was doing things my way on my own terms, releasing what doesn't serve me, and then allowing myself to reclaim that.
And even believing in yourself, right? Trusting in yourself.
Yeah,
Hey,
definitely.
that is what's meant for you to do, right? To
I love that.
align with ourselves in terms of, our values,
Mhm.
our passion, our dreams and desires. And sometimes it's our own self getting in the way of this.
100%, 100%. And, coming back to this topic around should I leave or should I go? Right? This uncertainty. Yeah. Should I leave or should I go? How do I know when to leave a relationship? And when we start asking those questions, it's scary. I think something that I've seen a lot and I think I've personally experienced is that it's scary to even think about the fear and the worry and the uncertainty of what's going to happen if we do go through that process, right? If we do end up leaving a relationship that doesn't serve us, that maybe is not healthy, that maybe is abusive, that maybe is whatnot, right? Doesn't quite align with our values anymore, or we've outgrown the relationships. Whatever reason or a situation is, it's scary. And a lot of the time, things that I see is the fear of just even thinking about it, of going through that grief process is what really stops. It's like one of the reasons that stops people from leaving a relationship. And I guess, I don't know, what is it that you've seen in your practice or when you do work with clients?
And I think what you mentioned is like the underlying thing, right? The fear, right? There's so many, fear drives a lot of our actions, right? Especially with relationships and thinking about, right? If I were to leave this relationship, what does that mean for me, right? Fear of being alone, the fear of, am I going to meet somebody, right? Am I going to be alone? And we haven't even started, talking about culturally, right? What it means, right, to be in a relationship or even to be single and at what age in your life you find yourself. Especially thinking about, right, having that awareness, right? And even with that awareness, right, it's figuring out, well, what do we do with that, right? Do we lean into it or do we stay in it? And I think a lot of our fears, right, like you said, the unknown, the uncertainty is something that keeps, right, women in relationships that perhaps aren't for them. And something that I was reading about that to me it really resonated is that strong women, the strong women that are successful, they are more likely to stay in relationships that are not good for them.
Oh,
And this was an interesting thing
yeah.
because I really went through that myself. We're like, wait a minute, like I should know better. Like, why am I in this relationship if I know it's not for me? It's
Yeah.
unhealthy. It doesn't align with me, right? But there's something to say in terms of just culturally, in terms of societal, right? In terms of our belief systems and what is that belief system that continues to show up in these relationships
Oh,
of like, it's what I deserve. Is this what I think is normal?
um,
Is this what I saw in like my family, right?
yeah.
In terms of like my parent dynamic,
Mm-hmm.
right? And especially as successful women, we work hard. We want to work hard in relationships. We also look at like in terms of our investment, right? Like we've invested in this relationship, like we have to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Or because ending a relationship, sometimes I mean that we failed, right? So I think with this question, it's so multi-layered,
Oh my gosh,
right?
totally.
And everyone's experience is unique, right? And there's commonalities and similarities in terms of what women, women of color, Latinas, go through it specifically, with relationships. But overall, I would say, yeah, it's those fears and that belief system that you have
Mhm.
to you there where it's hard to find that strength or that trust within yourself to know that you're making the best decision for you.
Wow, you touched on so many layers. I want to like dissect and unpack these. These are all things that I'm sure a lot of us, you and I, and our listeners, the audience, our clients have experienced. I want to touch on the strong, independent chingona women, right? Because we know a lot of them. We know a lot of them, and they are our mothers, our sisters, ourselves, our tias, right? Our abuelas, our bisabuelas, right? And I think, like, if you look at this generation, the generational patterns and beliefs, a lot of culturally, these are rooted in belief systems about love, about
Yeah,
relationships, about, I think a lot of it is also, given that now things are changing where women are becoming more independent, they are doing their own thing, right? But before, like our abuelas, our bisabuelas, our parents, they also depended financially,
oh yeah.
so there were not a lot of opportunities for them. A lot of people, a lot of women in our families stayed in relationships, probably very toxic, very abusive relationship dynamics because of how they grew up, because of the intergenerational dynamics and trauma that they've witnessed and experienced, the codependency, the wanting love, the wanting to be chosen, be needed, be loved, desired, all of these things, right? The codependency, it's so rooted in, I do think that a lot of it is our narratives, the trauma, the intergenerational trauma that we've experienced, and understanding also that these narratives do also come from our parent, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
We learn about love and relationships about our parents too. And I think I just remember my mom making comments sometimes where I was in a relationship and a relationship or a long-term relationship, and I realized, this relationship is no longer serving me. I don't feel good. I feel like I'm outgrown it. I'm, working on myself internally and externally. And there's so many other factors that were involving this person, and, not trying to talk negatively. It was, that person was an amazing person in my life. And I realized that I've learned so much about myself and about relationships. But I realized, like, one of the narratives that my mom would say, it's like, oh, but, él es bueno. Ay, mija, no seas tan caprichuda or like stubborn, you know what I mean? Don't. And then I realized, like, no, mom, like, you have to understand that this is my life and my experience, and I appreciate you. I know you love me and care about me, and you don't want me to be alone, because always the narrative is like, yo no quiero que estés sola, yo quiero que te cuiden, que estés bien. And it's like, I understand, mom, but at the same time, I get to make those choices and decisions for myself. I'm an adult. I know what is good for me and what isn't. And I feel like this is something that I hope that you do
Yeah.
see, that I value and I respect myself, and I have to make choices that really align with where I am now and what I want for myself. And trust me, it wasn't a right decision. It wasn't an easy decision. It took me a long time to a point where even I had like family members ask me, well, this, if, it was a bad relationship or whatnot, why did you stay? And it's, why did you stay so long? Why did you stay? Why didn't you leave him? And it's like, excuse me? Like, I still this day, I have that in my mind. And I'm like, well, how dare you question that? You don't even know. You don't even know what I was going through. You don't even know if I was going through like narcissistic abuse, if I was going through just psychological, emotional abuse. So you don't understand. So I realized I'm pretty mindful around what I share and with whom. But, I wanted to share this story because a lot of us get asked these questions, and it's not just a, black and white binary answer. It's complex. Relationships and navigating relationships are pretty complex.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate that, you are sharing this story, because I'm sure it is resonating with women that either have gone through that or are currently in that. And coming to that realization, it's hard,
Mm,
right? It takes a lot of awareness, a lot of that inner work,
mhm,
right? To get to have the awareness. Then it's like, okay, so then how do I do this? Right.
mm,
And not just the fear, right? We have to also think about our worth, right?
yes.
We're worth in terms of like how worthy we feel, where's our self-esteem at, where's the confidence, because that sometimes too can get in the way of making these decisions, and also guilt, right?
Mhm,
Um, I remember in my this past relationship I was in, like I felt guilty for leaving.
yeah.
Um, and so sometimes is that too, right? Where we don't want to hurt the other person's feelings, right? We want to save them, or we want to like make sure that they're okay. So we kind of take on that responsibility. Right? And the moment I was like, wait a minute, this is not my responsibility. I'm responsible for myself. Everything that was happening, it was at the cost of my own well-being, right?
Exactly.
So it's really about recognizing what is getting in the way,
Mhm.
right? Because even ourselves, I know I was very judgmental about myself. Like, why am I in this?
Mhm.
Period. What am I doing, right? Pero ahí estaba, and this really gave me insight, right? Like, it doesn't matter, right? Your profession, your education, yo que soy terapeuta. I'm like, I should know better, right? Beyond that, right? We're
Yeah.
human.
Yeah.
And we have emotions and struggles like everyone else. So this really gave me insight of like, it's really hard to leave a relationship, right?
100%. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Aware of like unhealthiness, toxic, right? The manipulation, the lighting,
Mhm.
right? Talking about these are things to look out for, right? In terms of, what are the signs? How do you know when you're ready to leave, right?
Mhm.
As you're stuck with your own process of awareness and figure things out and healing yourself.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I guess for you in maybe in your in your experience or personal or professional, what are I'm sure it's different. As you mentioned, this shows up differently for everyone, and everyone's story and experience is going to be unique. What are some limiting beliefs that do come up around love and relationships?
Wow.
I know that's a very charged question.
No, a lot of the clients that I work with, they do come with a lot of limited beliefs in terms of that they deserve this, right? I deserve this, right? I deserve this kind of relationship. I don't see myself um, meeting anyone that's gonna love me the way that they love me. I'm not worthy of something. I'm not worthy of love. I'm not enough. Right? Even, and I see this more happening with like the end of the relationship, like when a breakup happens. But even when they are within that relationship, especially if there is a layer of like toxicity or abuse, right? Manipulation, our self-esteem and our self-worth um is affected. Right? We start thinking, well, we start thinking low about ourselves. And even to the point, like I said, sometimes like maybe I do deserve this, or maybe you take, because also like the gaslighting, which is made to feel like you're the crazy one, right? They start believing, okay, maybe it was my fault, right? Maybe I did cause this argument or this disagreement. In a sense, we also kind of, we focus on the positive thing of the other person,
Yeah.
and sometimes tell ourselves lie, right? In terms of the reasons why to stay as well. What I also see, with limited beliefs, right? A lot of it too, it comes from like childhood emotional wounds, right? These beliefs, for some women, it starts within that relationship, but for some women, it starts as from their childhood in terms of their upbringing, or where they start having these beliefs about themselves in terms of, again, what they feel they deserve, whether they're worthy, whether they're enough, whether it is that they're even like, confident to make these decisions, right? So it's again, like it's a lot of things to look at in terms of when it is that they are in that part of the journey. So really, I like exploring the belief system, especially culturally. And as you friends, and I'm sure you can relate to this too, right? That blueprint that is given from our family becomes our blueprint. And then we also start kind of becoming like we start fitting those gender roles, right? As women, right, we're supposed to be passive. We're supposed to caretake and do everything for a partner. So then that adds this like, okay, well, yeah, this is normal. This is what I need to be doing, even though it's not necessarily aligned perhaps with what you believe in, or because it's more about like the narrative that you think that you should be playing.
Yeah, and it's a lot of the shoulds. The
Yes.
shoulds, the always, the never, very binary ways of thinking. And as you mentioned, like the cultural aspects of relationship dynamics, of family dynamics, a lot of these are learned. Like patterns, belief systems, they're all learned, and they manifest through behaviors, they manifest through ways that you interact, ways that you relate to yourself, ways that you relate to others in either romantic relationships, friendships. And you're right about that. And also the childhood wounding, the wounds of the attachment wounds, right? That we talk a lot about, the abandonment wound, the rejection wound, I already said rejection. I mean, there's like all of these different wounds, right?
That, the insecurity.
Yeah.
And so it's really important to start there too, right? When we're doing this work in terms of when we are at that point where we're wanting to leave a relationship, right? That it's not just about the relationship either.
It's about us. It's about you, right? It's about delving deep and understanding yourself, your story, your experiences. And you're right. I'm sure a lot of people go in. I have a lot of clients come in and say, well, I want to work on my relationship with my partner. And it's like, okay, let's do that. And then we start digging in and realizing, wow, like the focus at the end of the day is you. Okay. Why are you coming here? What is it that is happening to you when these situations happen? What are the triggers that come up? What is it? If you're asking yourself this important question, whether I should leave or I should go, or when do I know when to leave a relationship? It's because something in you, that little voice, is letting you know, that voice inside of you is letting you know, like, hey, I really need to reassess this. And this is important. This is coming up. I need to really listen to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, that relationship with the self, I feel it's like the number one. And what ends up happening in a lot of clients that I work with is that this work isn't done until afterwards. Sometimes it can be done within the relationship where there is that inner growth, but it can be challenging. So after, when someone ends a relationship or breaks up, that they realize, wait a minute, like this isn't just about the relationship, right? The relationship was just what triggered, right? Those limited beliefs, those wounds, right? They just kind of brought it to light.
Yes, 100%. And a lot of people, and I think this happens to a lot of women too, is that they start grieving the relationship before they leave the relationship. So grief starts even before leaving, because you're asking questions, you're processing, you're exploring, you're identifying all of these things that are coming up for you. And all of the grief comes up before you even leave a relationship. And then after, right? So there's a before and the after. What are some of the things that come up after?
Yeah. So I love that you're bringing up grief because that is one of the ways, to process, right? Relationships,
Mm.
because it does feel like, someone is dying or like it's the end of the world type of thing, right? Because of the impact that, the relationship ending can have on you psychologically, mentally, and also like physically. And so I do find that women actually grieve the relationship sooner than men do. And so I point that out. And then once they are already out of the relationship, now it's really, okay, how do I live without this person now? Right. And the common things that come up is, I don't know who I am. I've lost myself, right? Everything about that person. I don't know who I am. So in that grief, it's also you're grieving the identity as a partner, right? And then you're also grieving that relationship that is no longer there. And you're also grieving the future, what could have been the relationship, the hopes and dreams of what you thought the relationship was going to be. So even with grief is layered.
It's so
Just
layered.
you're grieving. And then within that process, right, then you start rediscovering yourself, right? Now the things that bring you joy and pleasure, you start self first, right? But all of that, right, it's a process, right? And we know, right, healing is not linear, it's messy, it's uncomfortable. There's so much that comes with it, but once you do it, and this is partly why I love working with women in this transition, because I love to see the transformations and love to see how they went from whether they're, leaving their relationship, out of their relationship, and then who it is that they become after the fact. That right there is my favorite moment that I love to see women blossom and just come into their own, right? Because it's hard. Healing is hard, especially from relationships. And
It is. It's not linear, as you mentioned. It's not cute. It's not like flowers and butterflies. It's like peeling the layers. It's messy, as you mentioned. It's not going to be cute like they paint it out there. And, you bring up a big point around the different phases of grief and, the before and the after. And, the grieving, not only the identity, because there's the grieving identity, right? Who we are in the relationship, grieving who, as you mentioned, who we were supposed to be or who we wanted to be, but also grieving people, right? Community. You've established relationships, mutual relationships, family, and identity around being in a relationship. So that's also part of the grieving process. And as you mentioned, so that's pretty real. And obviously, as you do embark in like grieving, leaving the relationship, rediscovering yourself, finding your voice, reclaiming your worth, reclaiming your voice, reclaiming your power, reclaiming your confidence. All of these are pretty, it's powerful work, and it's not easy because it's a lot of unlearning, conditioning, not only from the relationship, but from it's generational healing too, because you are learning so much and unlearning and healing and reframing and shifting and rewriting your narrative in ways that you feel empowered, right? You're on your way, on your own terms. And that, I think, it's so beautiful and it's so powerful. And I really love doing this work too, because I work with a lot of clients who are going through this breakup process and healing and understanding who they are, getting to know themselves. And as you mentioned, it's not easy, but I think we all owe it to ourselves to do this inner work, to heal and to start manifesting what is it that we really want, what kind of relationships we want in our lives. And oftentimes it's like, it's easy to be like, well, this person was XYZ and XYZ. But honestly, at the end of the day, when it comes to relationships, it's about, it's a mutual thing. So we all need to work internally because we all have our own conditioning and our own blueprints and make some shifts in there. Right. And I like the fact that we're talking about also how do we align with when it comes to this question around how do I know when to leave a relationship? Start asking ourselves, how do we start making choices? Choices, of course, are not going to be easy. They're going to be painful sometimes, and that's grief, but we have to feel it to heal it. It's like, how do we align and make choices that align with our integrity, with our self-love, with what we really want and desire for ourselves and in our relationships? So that's the question that we need to start asking ourselves and being real and honest with ourselves.
Yeah. And with that, that's going to mean leaning into your fears, leaning into the uncertainty, leaning into the unknown, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen when you leave that relationship, right?
Yeah.
But that in itself is such a courageous act, right? A radical, I feel, act of self-love where you're choosing yourself because you know you deserve it, right? And I think something I wanted to touch upon is that in these relationships, especially that don't serve us or are bad for us or unhealthy, we lose sight of our values. And we're not tapping into our intuition.
Yeah.
Right. We're not tapping into what doesn't, like, we know it doesn't feel right. We know that it's not healthy. We know that it's not okay. Right. So I think within that process, as we're asking those questions and building that trust within ourselves, is also listening to our intuition.
Yeah.
And really leading with that and trusting yourself that you're making this scary, brave decision, right? Con miedo, but because you know that you deserve more, that you deserve better, or that, again, maybe it's just sometimes you outgrow the relationship. And I do believe, and you can let me know your thoughts about this, that once you start doing your healing in your relationship, you're either going to grow with your partner or you're going to outgrow your partner.
Yeah. And that's what happens. And that's where the healing happens, right? It's like we start either going to therapy or coaching or getting support, and we realize, wow, okay, I'm asking myself all these questions. What now? Okay, I'm feeling this certain way. I'm bringing it up to my partner. They're not responsive. They're like judgy or not helpful in my growth, in my journey, judgmental or whatnot, or they're just simply están en su onda y internamente they probably have done the work or maybe not have done any work, inner work. And it's just, hay un desbalance.
I just don't want to change.
Exactly. And, you just have to see people, and I guess see people for who they are. And there's this quote that I've heard que dice, o aceptas a la persona tal y como es y te quedas, o aceptas a la persona tal y como es y te vas. And you know what? I know it's not that easy as it sounds, because as we're talking about, it's not easy. But hey, I think sometimes we nos ponemos una venda en los ojos and we don't want to see. And we need to be real and honest with ourselves. Like, clearly this person is not going to change. They're not going to change for you. They need to change because they want to, for themselves, first and foremost, and because they want to improve the relationship. Yeah. But that's not your choice. And sometimes, if you have like codependency patterns and dynamics and maybe fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, betrayal wounds, all of these things, that can complicate things a little more. It can be challenging. Todo es posible. Todo es posible haciendo el trabajo interno, getting support. Sometimes it's hard to do it alone. We need our tribe. We need community. We need someone that's there guiding us, supporting us. And if that's what's going to take, then that's what it's going to take. finding the right people. Sometimes when you reach out to your mom or your friend, like they may have great intentions, but they're not trained to talk to you, to support you, to guide you in that process. And they might give you an opinion that you might not like, or it might confuse you even more. And you got to also set those boundaries, those emotional boundaries, and figure out where is the right place to go. But also, the right place to go is also within, because we have the answers. When you said listening to our intuition knows. And you know what also knows? Our body knows.
And
Our body knows when we're feeling like a certain way, like our stomach hurts, our heart, we're just like going onto this flight freeze mode or fawn mode, and our body just doesn't sit well with it. There's something there. Like your body is always telling you something. Your body's always telling you what you need to do. However, sometimes we're so disconnected because of our experiences, adversities, trauma, patterns that we need to really look at and tend to. And this is doing that inner work and going within and reaching out for support.
absolutely beautifully said. And I'm so happy to be able to have this conversation with you, Cynthia. Because I don't think this conversation is had enough, right? Like people are not happy. We know it's happening, right? We're all going through relationships. We all have heartbreaks. We all fall in love. We all have, relationships and whatnot. But to actually have this conversation, I love that while you're creating this space, right? To have these conversations for us to be like, you know what? Yeah, like I've been in that relationship, or you know what? Yeah, like there is hope, right? And my hope here is not to, the message isn't to tell women like leave that relationship, right? But it's about really checking in with yourself. Ask yourself, right? Do you want to be in this? Is this for asking yourself those questions like you mentioned earlier, about is this the relationship for you? And if it isn't, right, what are you gonna do about it? One question that I love to ask my client, y siempre se quedan like, is like, depending, because sometimes clients are like, well, I've been with them for 5 years, 10 years, right? Like they want like what I call like a return on investment, right? I ask them, I'm like, okay, so this is how your life has been these last 10 years. Can you do this for another 10 years? And they're like, I don't want to know, but okay, well, let's start there.
Yeah.
Right?
That is a powerful question. Yeah.
I can like, well, this is, this is what I've invested. This is the length of relationship. This is what we have going on. We have a house, there are so many, again, yes, there's so many reasons to stay, right? Are those reasons going to be enough, right? For you to continue in that for, again, the rest of your years and whatnot. Like I look at my parents, right? And I think a lot of, our parents, especially when we think about like our culture beliefs or religious beliefs, right? In terms of marriage, right? In terms of how sacred we hold it, and about how serious we take our commitment, right? And I know that's another layer of, cultural implications and factors.
Yeah.
But I know my parents, right? They've been married for 30 plus years, right? And in my opinion, do I think they should have stayed? I mean, I won't say yes or no, but I do question that, right? I understand the reasons to stay, right? So I do want to, respect and honor people's decisions to stay. Is if you're questioning yourself, if you're unhappy, if you want something different, lean into that.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. You bring up a lot of great points, and I've been loving this conversation.
It's been so good.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for being here. I guess are there any last words or message that you would like to tell, anyone who is having these questions, who is asking themselves these questions, whether they should leave or go, or when to know when to leave a relationship?
Yeah. Well, I just want to tell all the mujeres that are listening, that you are deserving, and that you are brave, and that you, are able to create and manifest, right? Whatever relationship, dream, anything that you want to do, it's within your reach. In order to do that, you have to do the work. And as we talked about, this entire, session is about doing the inner work. When you do that, everything I feel falls into place. I want you to lean into your fears. I want you to give yourself permission to ask for help, because you're not alone, right? You're not alone in this. There are other women that are going through the same thing. There are professionals that are ready to help you. Want to help you because they believe in your growth. They believe in your potential. They believe that you can accomplish anything that you want and be in whatever relationship that you want to be in. It's just a matter of getting out of our own way.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much, Norma. And how can they work with you?
Yes, great question. So I do provide therapy services and coaching services. The therapy services is for anyone who is in California only. As a therapist, I do provide support specifically for women, Latinas, first gens in their healing journey, whether it's healing from relationship wounds, trauma wounds, depression, trauma. With the coaching, that one is more specifically tailored for breakups. So that one, this could be anyone outside of California. If it is that you're currently going through a breakup, you've been through the breakup, you're struggling to move on from that relationship, and you want support in terms of being able to heal and then be able to attract new, healthy, secure relationships, the breakup coaching will be for you. If you would like to find me on Instagram, my hashtag is normally_healing. And yeah, thank you so much, Cynthia, for allowing me to be in the presence of you and having this empowering and much needed conversation. And we hope that whoever listening to us today, you're able to take something with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Norma. And thank you, everyone who is listening. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, share it with your loved ones or anyone that is needing it, and also follow and subscribe and leave a comment on my Spotify and share it. Okay? Tag me, tag Norma, y nos vemos en el siguiente episodio. Adiós.